why gold became money. Again, over time, people are experimenting different forms of money. How do I preserve purchasing power over time? Oh, that didn't work. I got to switch to this. That didn't work. I got to switch to this. The market is basically zeroing in on what is the most scarce commodity, right? The hardest commodity to produce relative to all others, that is also sufficiently divisible, durable, recognizable, and portable, right? You need your money to be those four things in addition to that money being scarce relative to goods and services. Gold became money because it best satisfied these properties, but we needed to centralize it to make it scalable, right? Gold is not scalable as money unless we introduce a gold-backed currency, a layer two on top of it to make it more transactable, which works wonderfully, except for the human problem, right? We are sinful, fallen creatures. No one, now there have been legitimate banking operations that have run full reserve banks. There's been examples of this everywhere. But this temptation to print more money or to create more liabilities than you have assets on reserves actually allowed the dishonest operators, those running fractional reserves, to generate more revenues than those running full reserves. So all of a sudden you get dishonest banks outcompeting honest banks. So it's this very perverse financial situation. And it culminates, starts out full reserve, becomes ever more fractionated. Maybe there's like 90% assets to liabilities, 50%, all the way down to 0%, right?
Which is 1971, right?
1971. So to get to 1971, and there's a key point here too, that if you follow the movements of gold across history, I think it helps explain a lot of history. For instance, in World War II, anytime Hitler would invade a country, the first thing he would do once he conquered the country is raid the central bank, go to their central bank, steal, confiscate all the gold, right? If I'm Hitler and I'm just engaged in this extremely expensive enterprise of going to war, which is the most expensive thing humans can engage in, I'm only going to engage in that activity if there is an incentive, like the prospect for financial gain on the other side of that, right? I'm going to acquire resources and land and gold from my conquered enemies. So Hitler invades Poland, confiscates the gold. He invades some other countries. First thing he's doing every time he conquers them, takes the gold. Other European countries start to see this, right? Like England, France. They're saying, well, this is the problem, right? The Blitzkrieg is advancing. He's stealing all the gold. Once he steals the gold, he can fund further war efforts. So there's this vicious feedback loop, right? The more he conquers, the more he steals, the more Hitler is able to conquer and steal. So working with the Allies, England, France, other countries start to ship gold, their gold, to North America as a means of putting it in a geographically protected safe haven, right? Much harder for Hitler to fly across the Atlantic, defeat the United States, get the gold. Like he can't do that really. He's just advancing on land. And so once enough of the gold was shipped here to the United States, who was very hesitant to enter the war for a long time, at some point we realized, well, look, we've got all the gold now, or most of the gold. And he who has the gold makes the rules. So there came this inflection point where the United States said, well, I guess we should enter this war. And, our opponents are war wearied, right? Hitler was fighting a two-front war with Russia and with European countries. United States enters the war late. We win, quote unquote win, right? We defeat Hitler. And we win World War II, as we're told in the United States. There's another, it's kind of a sidebar argument, but 30 million Russians were killed in World War II. I would argue that they were the actual winners in a way. Like they are the ones that put the most damage onto Hitler and put him into this position of being able to be defeated by the United States in its late entry. We win World War II. What is the first thing the United States does after it wins World War II?
Well, it probably keeps the gold as debt or reparations for their heroic deeds?
We keep the gold, of course, because it's all about the money. And then we hold the Bretton Woods
Bretton
Conference.
Woods, yeah.
And in that conference, we rewrite the global banking rules. London is no longer going to be the financial center of the world. New York City is. And the United States dollar will be pegged to gold. All other currencies will then be pegged to the US dollar. And now this created what the French would later call the exorbitant privilege for the United States to run deficits without tears. So we could print as many dollars as we wanted with low, again, no cost, low to no cost. We can export these dollars worldwide and have other countries send us goods and services that require work and cost to produce. So we had that asymmetric advantage of we can export dollars and inflation basically and import goods and services.